Hello everyone! Welcome back to our German grammar series. In this lesson, we'll be covering the basics of German articles and providing you with some tips and tricks to help you master them. Why is learning German articles important? It is because, unlike English, where articles are used mainly for singular and plural nouns, German articles also convey gender along with number. And knowing the correct article for a noun is essential for proper sentence construction, and incorrect usage can change the meaning of a sentence entirely. Let's start with the basic rules of German articles. There are three types of German articles: der, die, and das. Der is used for masculine gender, die for feminine, and das for neuter gender. In German, the gender of a noun is not always predictable, so it is important to memorize the gender of each noun. Let's look at some examples. Masculine nouns. Masculine nouns in German use the article der. For example, der Mann, der Bleistift, der Stuhl. Feminine nouns, they take the article die. For example, die Frau, die Lampe, die Katze. And neuter nouns, they take the article das. For example, das Auto, das Haus, das Buch. There are also some gender rules in German that can help you determine the gender of a noun. Let's learn them one by one. Masculine nouns. Masculine nouns often end in er, or, ling, ish, ig, or ismus. For example, der Lehrer, der Autor, der Frühling, der Teppich, der König, der Journalismus. Feminine nouns, they often end in, height, kite, Schaft, or ung. For example, die Lehrerin, die Freiheit, die Möglichkeit, die Freundschaft, die Zeitung. And the neuter nouns, they often end in schen, line, ment, or For example, das Mädchen, das Fräulein, das Medikament, das Museum. While the gender rules for German nouns are generally consistent, there are some exceptions. Some nouns break the gender rules and use a different article than expected. Let's look at some examples of such nouns. Mädchen, which refers to a young girl, but grammatically it is neuter and takes the article das. Fraulein, it refers to a young unmarried woman, but grammatically it is neuter and takes the article das. Herz, it means heart. It is a neuter noun, although it does not end in schen or line like most neuter nouns. See, which means the sea, is a masculine noun, even though it ends in a, which usually takes a feminine noun. So as you can see, there are many exceptions to the gender rules in German. But don't worry, with practice and exposure to the language, you will become more familiar with them. Liking this video helps support my channel, so please take a moment to hit that thumbs up button and consider subscribing. Here are some tips and tricks for mastering German articles. Tip number 1. Learn the gender with the noun. Whenever you learn a new German noun, always make sure to learn its gender at the same time. This will help you associate the noun with its corresponding article from the beginning. Tip number 2. Pay attention to endings. As we discussed in the previous section that many German nouns have gender-specific endings that can help you determine the gender. So remember these endings and make use of them. Tip number 3. Learn noun genders in context. It can be helpful to learn nouns and their corresponding articles in context rather than just memorizing them in isolation. Reading German texts or listening to German audio can help you learn the gender of nouns in a more natural way. And tip number 4. Practice, practice, practice. The more you practice using German articles, the easier it will become. Try to use articles correctly whenever you speak or write in German and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Learning from your mistakes is an important part of the language learning process. Now let's do a quick revision of what we have learned today. First, we have learned that understanding and mastering German articles is an important part of learning German language. Secondly, remember to memorize the gender of each noun. And lastly, remember the exceptions and practice using articles in context. Please let me know in comments if you have any queries regarding this topic or want some practice questions around it. That's all for today's class. I will see you in the next one. Cheers!